I'd like to call to order the Bellefonte Borough Council work session. Welcome, everyone. Bellefonte Borough Council work session. There'll be no council action, making motions or approvals. That's not taken during the work session. We'll start out with a trivia question from Council Vice President Barbara Dan.
Thank you, President Bernier. Tonight is a geography question. How many, it's two-part. First part is how many counties are adjacent to Center County? You're all doing what I did earlier. Any guesses?
6, 7.
Any other guesses?
5.
Mr. Johnson, you are correct. Now, starting north and going clockwise, can you name them? North is Clinton.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
North is Clinton. I'm not surprised.
Clearfield.
Well, next, then go to the east. Clinton's north. What's to the east? Union. Joanne is rocking this. Southeast, the next one. Mifflin, very good. After Mifflin, Huntington. Now we're going.
Blair.
No, before Clearfield is Blair, and then Clearfield. Thank you.
Items for discussion. South Spring Street loading and unloading zone by the Dollar General store. Mr. Holderman.
So we wanted to bring this up to council tonight just to talk a little bit and get council's input and thoughts on the South Spring Street loading and unloading zone. As you know, we did the phase 1 streetscape project last year on the municipal lot side, and come the end of August, we'll be working on the opposite side of the street. However, in addition to that, it'll also run from in front of the waffle shop up through Smokers Express to finish out that section on West Bishop, then jump across the street and go from Dollar General down to High Street. So, as you know, when we had our engineer or architect do the design, last time we bumped out the street, probably I think it was 4 or 5 feet. So currently this photo was taken last Friday, but in general, I think everyone that's been probably sitting around this table, that if you've been down in the borough anytime in the morning, this is a lot of times what you'll see. There'll be a truck for Dollar General unloading there. A lot of times there's Pepsi and Coke trucks stacked in front, one in front of each other on the same side. So this is where they've been parking to do their loading and unloading currently. As you can see, you have the handicap parking space there to the left, and then I think there's a Cadillac Escalade parked in the first parking place. Bring that up because we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is the, so when you have cars parked there and then you have a car coming towards West Bishop, that's the amount of room that you have. The problem that it occurs is that if you have a car coming up and then you see the car trying to turn off of West Bishop onto South Spring, that's kind of the general issue right now that we see as a potential problem and something that we would like to talk to you all about and see what we can do to resolve it. So talking with Ralph, we thought some options for consideration would be it's not necessary to come up with a decision this evening. We ask that maybe you go look at the situation and give it some thought. A lot of times we jump into these things and we make a rash decision. It turns out to be more problematic. So we could always come back a little bit later, or maybe at the next meeting, and have a more definitive answer. Consider the loading, unloading zone hours, so you could change that from 5 to 7. I don't know, I mean, obviously I haven't talked to Dollar General. I don't know if they have anybody there at that time, but that's what you do see in some areas where you limit the amount of time to early in the morning. You could consider utilizing the first two parking spaces, including the handicapped, as the loading and unloading zone. So that would be those where that white vehicle is and the handicap. What we would probably do in this situation is just put up a sign, stating that that would be loading and unloading, no parking from, say, 6 a.m. till 10 or 11, something along those lines, depending on when the trucks come in, which we would need to talk to some folks about. And I'd also probably want to look at Bell Market and see what time the hours are of when they open, because you'd be removing a parking spot right in front of their store. And then the other option would be consider a no loading, unloading zone on Spring Street, forcing the trucks to unload and load next to Dollar General. The problem that we see here is if they pull into next to Dollar General and park parallel with the building, it would be backing out into traffic, and that would be, I don't know whether that would be the wisest decision, so. We looked at that. Ralph, do you want to take that?
I'm sorry, I think maybe you have South or Spring Street when that should be West Bishop. Are you meaning by they keep going up towards the old academy?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Couldn't they pull up through the academy and out?
Well, the academy's private property, so right now we have no say on what would happen there. That's the concern. They'd have to back out, as Dawn was saying, which could cause an accident.
But I mean, in a perfect world, if they could go up and come down off of the academy and, be facing West Bishop and park right next to Dollar General, would be the ideal situation, but can't do that.
They're unloading and loading
That-
hours are.
Where West Bishop then comes out on Spring Street is near the Stony Bed or Spring Street, Pine Street, Bermuda Triangle, which is already a terrible intersection, and having any additional traffic into or out of that location, particularly with the curve and the hill, is probably not advisable.
I've seen 18-wheelers parked in front of Monarch 2, which is directly across from my office area, in addition to a truck, an 18-wheeler by the stop sign, across from Dollar General. And, I'm not sure who they were affiliated with. I can't imagine Monarch. It's a beauty salon needing an 18-wheeler to, deliver their materials, but it could have been associated, it didn't really have any markings, but it could be associated with Dollar General. But that's another area that I've seen tractor trailers at.
Kent, did you have a question?
Do they just unload and load now at random times?
We typically see it primarily in the morning, morning hours, and all around 10, but I mean.
I only ask because if we do the whole park along the Dollar General, or even consider it facing up towards the academy, that takes all of those parking spots.
Yeah.
We're talking about eliminating a parking spot or two just to let them unload and load in front. And then to even consider them turning right there facing the academy, that's like, 5 or 6 metered spots right there. People use those spots to go over to Napa, probably around to Bell Mercantile, which I know is popular. I like the idea of them just unloading and loading in front of the Dollar General. Can you go back to that picture where
Sure.
the Escalade's parked? So there's space, at least a parking space from where the Cadillac is parked to the corner. So that,
Yeah.
would it take 2 parking spots if we only had 1 space there for a truck?
I'm guessing it would take 2, but it would in addition be to where, the
Yeah.
yellow, where we have the curb painted yellow, it would take up all of that.
Right, yeah. That's the one solution that would eliminate that very,
Yes.
very good picture you had of a car turning right there that can't see which is awful. I can't even imagine. Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, I get that. So,
So just to clarify, these spaces would remain usable, but they, they would be restricted during during that time of the day.
I don't believe the Bell Mercantile opens much before 10 in the morning. They're not an early opener. So if we had early morning loading and unloading in that area, it wouldn't impact Bell Mercantile, and it would also mean that the delivery drivers are not wheeling merchandise across the street. They're right there.
yeah, good point. Mr. Jones?
Go ahead.
Bell Mercantile is closed on Mondays. Do you know, it seems as though the Dollar General store receives merchandise like on Tuesdays, I believe. Is it just one day a week they get deliveries? Is that something that we could look at and maybe work around that, their delivery schedule?
Well, this was Friday, and I've seen other trucks there almost any day, but I'll be honest with you, I would probably go talk to them and, if there were specific days that they had loading, but I think in our previous discussions with them, they told us that they don't know when the trucks come in. But however, if they did have specific times, we would make the signage, according to whatever that would be. For example, if deliveries were Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, that's all we would make the signage, directed as such.
They do have various vendors, so I could see various trucks coming at different times and days.
So,
Ms. Testavasi?
following up on what Shauna just said, if we can check and see like which days they come in, or if there's some way that they could schedule their trucks, because I think it's really the Dollar General that is our biggest issue. Then we could do like we did with the Faith Center and said that on Wednesdays, I think it's Wednesdays at this time, this particular parking space is reserved solely, in that case, it was for the Faith Center. We could do something like that for the Dollar General.
Yeah, we could definitely talk to them and ask.
I actually searched the hours while we were sitting here talking, and Bell Mercantile, according to the website, is actually closed on Monday and Tuesday, and they open at 10 a.m. And Dollar General opens at 8 a.m. every day, just FYI.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Can we move the handicap space to another location, and that would free up that? Can we back it up towards the Mercantile, or maybe across the street in front of the old dentist office?
Yeah, I thought of that when he brought that up. We're right around the corner from the Dollar General, that first spot going up
Yes.
towards the,
Heading-
very close to that, but around the corner.
Heading east on Bishop Street.
Yeah.
I'd be concerned, Doug. I think we eliminated that space.
Well, there were two spaces there. We eliminated the first one.
Okay. Just,
We eliminated the one in front of the dentist office.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very poor visibility.
Sure.
Somebody slowly getting out of a vehicle may be a concern.
So what if we back up that handicap space towards the Mercantile, the first space?
We
after-
generally put them on the end of the block. It's much easier to park, get into a space if you're at the end space versus the middle of the spaces.
It's supposed to be the end space?
We've always done end spaces. It's much easier to get into.
So
What I would say is we should look,
the
maybe we could
VFW, the
look,
last
yeah,
space.
look at another place that doesn't have any safety issues and consider relocating that space.
Yeah, we could actually create an additional space in the municipal lot, which is your safest bet
There you
for
go.
handicap spots, and then make that just a regular parking space. You're only looking probably at eliminating parking for 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it'd be 10 hours.
What if you took the handicap spot in front of the white vehicle and make that, or the white vehicle, make that a handicap, keep that as a handicap, but that could be the end of the parking then, as far as where you're talking about there. But then the trucks are gonna have to go around the block and come in and back into that, because right now they're just driving like this guy here, pulls in and just stops there. So if you're gonna put them against the yellow curb, it would still give everybody the sight of what traffic is coming. Because that's a mess there.
It is a mess. I think, obviously, we're looking at an ordinance amendment, ordinance adoption. We would say you cannot unload other than in the space. We'd have all those restrictions built into the ordinance. If someone does that after the ordinance is passed, they would get a ticket. They would be fined for unloading out in the middle of the street.
When was the last time we took a spot out of that municipal lot? Have we done that recently? Are there handicap spots in there?
Yes.
Okay. So we'd be adding one to that, and you talk about safety and why you want to locate, I never thought of that, but why you'd want to put the handicap spot at the end makes good sense. When I said moving the spot, I meant move it around the corner up against the Dollar
East
General,
Bishop?
but that doesn't sound safer than putting them over in the municipal lot, so. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and they got to cross the street. But,
So I have a question. If you're putting an extra handicap space in that would be the south parking lot, would that space be specifically designated like a red spot, or would it be an additional one with the same metering with the kiosk and everything?
Yes, it'd be the kiosk blue parking. I think the current handicap parking space in that lot is down at the far end, so it'd be right beside it. We would probably put them side by side,
It'll be right near where the electric vehicle.
right next to Cherry.
Yeah, okay.
other comments?
We know what hours they park there most of the time, but can we nail that down a little tighter and see what we can, maybe go down there when they're unloading and see how bad it actually becomes?
Joanne, we'll take Joanne's questions. Can trucks be scheduled, and what days do they come in and what time? So we'll talk with the managers at Dollar General and try to get some information, Randy.
Other comments, questions?
I think we've covered it, and I think our staff, borough staff, will come
Yeah.
up with a reasonable solution to recommend to us.
The hope is that they'll actually know when their trucks come, because I think you said they don't really, which is probably the most common scenario, that, hey, the trucks just show up when they show up. And that would make it difficult, but, because then how do you make a sign? How do you
Yeah.
enforce it? So be anxious to hear what they actually say.
We'll get that information, but even though I said that I think we talked to them before, Ralph and I, and that's what, we were told. However, I can just say, typically from our troubles in the mornings around town, I've only really seen them there pretty much in the morning.
Yeah.
It's been, so that might be the case, Kent, but I would still think that that's probably going to solve
Right.
the problem.
Morning time, just not sure which day.
And like Ralph said, then if you ticket a tractor trailer driver for doing that, then they're only gonna get ticketed once. Then they're gonna work their schedule around that accordingly, I would think.
And I think with the other municipalities that have these restricted hours, it's something commonly expected by the truckers, so I don't think we're doing anything abnormal.
That's correct.
One more question. On the other side of the street where the smoke place is, there's parking along Spring Street that head in, and I wondered maybe you could do something there for a handicap spot to make it easier they can at least cross the street here where the walks.
You mean in the
Down by
lot?
rifle shop.
Okay.
No, right at the old gas station that's there.
Yes. Now, the parking that's on their property, is private property. There's no parking on that side of the road on Spring Street.
Not on the road, it's in their parking, it's in the parking lot that they have.
Yeah, that's
theirs.
that's private property. We have nothing to
Okay.
do with that. Now, when you get down to the municipal lot, we can like as Dawn said, we think we would put a new space, handicap space next to the existing one, but we can look if there's any more convenient locations.
Other comments or questions relative loading and unloading at the Dollar General? Any other things you guys want to discuss? We got a few minutes. No? Any other trivia questions? Okay, that concludes our Bellefonte Borough work session. like to call to order the Bellefonte Borough Council Business Meeting. Second thing we'd like to do is the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Mr. Bernier,
Here.
Mr. Brackbill,
Here.
Ms. Cleaton,
Here.
Ms. Dan,
Here.
Mr. Johnson,
Present.
Ms. McKean,
Here.
Ms. Purnell,
Here.
Ms. Sedgwick,
Here.
Ms. Tosti Vasey,
I'm here.
Mr. Larson is excused, Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Next is additions to the council meeting agenda. Does anybody have or wish to add anything to the council agenda? Ms. Tostovasi.
Yes, in our packet today, there was a memo from Julie stating that the solar co-op is still open through July 26th with info available on bellefonte.net. There's no action need to be taken, but I think that public just needs to know that it's there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a comment, Kent.
Yes.
So we're holding the Spring Creek Watershed meeting Wednesday, the 17th. That's this coming Wednesday from 7 to 8:30 p.m. The meeting will take place at Ferguson Township. And if you need to find the address for that, just get on their Spring Creek Watershed website, and it'll have all that information.
Thank you, Mr. Brackbill. Anyone else? Next is the public comments section of our meeting. For those that are here today, if you have comment you would like, please step to the podium, sign in, please, if you would, and limit your comments, please, to 3 minutes. Anybody have any public comment? Step on up.
Would you press the button on the mic, if you would, please? Should get a green light.
Technology, I'm always defeated.
I'm sure this isn't
Maybe I
on.
can speak loudly.
It's not working.
No, this was on. Yes, well, I'm sorry, we can have you sit at the table if that's all right, and use one of the, we can put a microphone over on the table.
I'm sorry to move you. No, no problem at all. Thank you.
Thanks
for the accommodation. My name is Sajay Samuel. I teach at Penn State. I'm here as a member of the Faculty for Justice in Palestine. I'm here to urge you to pass a resolution calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The Gaza Strip is the size of Philadelphia City. About 2 million people live there. 8 of every 10 Gazans are refugees, Palestinians who've been ethnically cleansed in 1948 by Zionist paramilitary and the Israeli army. Before 2007, Gaza was occupied by Israel. After 2007, it has been redesigned as an open-air prison. Gazans are confined within 21-foot-high walls and monitored 24/7 with some of the most advanced technology in the world. Remote-controlled machine guns, motion sensors, drones, and even state-of-the-art AI. Gazans cannot get in or out, whether by land, sea, or air, without the permission of their Israeli guards. Israel also controls the flow of water, electricity, medical supplies, and even food. Periodically, the Israeli army will mow the lawn in Gaza. This is a euphemism for the practice of bombing the captive population when it gets too restive. The years of occupation and blockade of Gaza do not justify what Hamas did to Israeli civilians on October the 7th. And nothing done by Hamas on October the 7th justifies the ongoing genocide of Gazan civilians. The stated goal of the war in Gaza is to destroy Hamas. But according to Israeli sources, Hamas militants account for less than 2% of the population. Yet, more than 10% of the unarmed population in Gaza has been directly slaughtered or indirectly killed. Israel has dropped 75,000 tons of explosives on Gaza, 5 times the explosive force of a nuclear bomb dropped in Hiroshima. The indiscriminate use of such weaponry, even safe zones have become killing fields, has displaced the entire population, destroyed the entire infrastructure, and made Gaza uninhabitable for a generation to come. 250,000 Gazans have been killed. This is a Lancet estimate of 2 days ago. Everybody knows that this genocide will stop tomorrow if the US government stopped supplying Israel with weapons and intelligence. Confronting genocide is not a matter of political discussion, but of moral condemnation. As conscientious citizens, we should rise in moral indignation about what is being done in our name and with our tax dollars. So I hope the Borough Council in Bellefonte will vote for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Gaza. And I'm happy to come back again and again if that helps to clarify some of the issues on the table. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Professor. Next.
Hi. My name is Stacy Hall. I was born at Center Community Hospital before it was Mount Nittany, and I've lived here ever since for 39 years. I'm now a Bellefonte resident for the last 11 years. I'm also the initiator of the Paper Cranes for Palestine Community Art Therapy Project, which we are building our folding origami cranes as a memorial for the children of Gaza. I've come to you to appeal to your hearts, and I've come to you to ask you to join me in compassion through action. For 10 months, I have been a witness to the daily deaths in Gaza. Along the way, I have sought truth through education to understand what is happening. I discovered that this war did not start on October 7th. Palestinians have endured ethnic cleansing and oppression for over 76 years, and now subjected to genocide. I am a witness to the murder of humanitarian aid workers and volunteers, doctors and healthcare professionals, journalists, academics, and civilians, including men, women, and children. It's the children, the 15,000 children reported, the 20,000 additional children missing, that have taken me out of my previous life and into a new one, in which my perspective is in relation to their suffering, because my eyes cannot unsee. Images are seared into my mind forever. Have you ever seen a family crushed under a massive slab of concrete? I have. I've seen their legs sticking out in a row, big, medium, and small. Have you ever seen a child without a head? I have. Have you ever seen a child's head? Just the head. I have 3 times. Have you ever seen a child's lifeless body covered in shrapnel wounds and bruises, mutilated? I have countless times. I now know that they died as their organs were liquefied from the force of 500 to 2,000 pound bombs. Have you ever seen a child burnt to death? I have. The tiny body was blackened and stiff to a crisp. Have you ever seen a dead fetus? I have. It was delivered from a woman who was murdered, the mother was murdered, and it was smaller than the man's hand who delivered it. Have you ever seen an eyeball come out of a socket? I have. 2 brothers, I have 2 boys. 2 brothers were crushed side by side on the balcony of a multi-story building. The older brother had his arm over the younger brother. The younger brother's eye came out. The older brother's tongue was smashed between his mouth. Up above the streets they died. Under the streets, under the rubble, under the sand, children die of asphyxiation. Can you imagine hearing them call for help and not being able to help them? I'm sure you've seen images of starving children, all skin and bones, but have you seen them in death? Stiff skin and bones cradled in a mother or father's arms? I have. Humanitarian aid must be allowed to enter Gaza. I've seen children lined up on the floor of barely functioning hospitals covered in blood and dead. 3 young sisters in a row next to their father. We have to end the attacks on hospitals and the closures of hospitals. I've seen children shot dead by snipers in the streets next to their dead mothers. How many lifeless little bodies must I watch be carried to the hospital to be counted? I could go on and on and on, because I have chosen to see and be a witness. I have seen dead children every single day for 282 days. As a mother of 3 children in Bellefonte, my heart is broken. It is our responsibility to be a voice for them, and together we can stop this. I want to mention too, and thank you for your time, that doctors have been targeted and murdered along with their families, and as they die, so too does their knowledge of how to save lives. And so children die excruciating deaths of injuries, infections, and treatable diseases. As of May 16th, over 493 health care workers have been killed according to the Gaza Ministry of Health. Let us join the over 100 cities in America that are calling for a ceasefire. Let us join UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders, Bet Shalom, Jewish Voices for Peace, Amnesty International, Oxfam, the World Health Organization, over 140 Christian leaders in saying ceasefire now, permanent ceasefire now for the children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Reem. I'm a member of the Students for Justice in Palestine. I'm also an undergraduate student at Penn State, where I study physics. Physics is, in summary, a study of the universe, and I've been taught by all my professors that physics is about questioning things, and physics dictates a lot of the ways that we live life. For a lot of people in Gaza, and a lot of students in Gaza, they're questioning a lot of things about their lives. They're not able to pursue their passion for education anymore. And in the words of physicist Qasem Walid al-Farah, a physicist in Gaza, life is different now that Israel has killed my professors. Knowledge feels trapped behind unopenable gates. My professors taught me the physics of life. Israel, on the other hand, is forcing me to learn the physics of death. In May, I got to watch a lot of my friends walk across the stage to celebrate their graduations. They're going to start new careers, new chapters of their lives. They might start families. They're going to learn new things. In Gaza, no students can celebrate the years of hard work and dedication to their studies that they've put in. Instead, these students are victims of scholasticide at the hands of the Zionist regime. Scholasticide is a tactic of genocide and refers to the systemic obliteration of education through the arrest, detention, or killing of teachers, students, and staff, and the destruction of educational infrastructure. This also includes the destruction of cultural and intellectual knowledge through the annihilation of libraries and cultural heritage sites. In Gaza, no student has been able to attend school since October 2023. That includes at least 625,000 students who no longer have access to education, which is a human right. More than 6,000 Palestinian students have been murdered by Israel. Hundreds of Palestinian teachers and professors have been killed by Israel, including 95 university professors. At Penn State, that would mean that 1 in 10 faculty were killed. Over 7,819 students and 756 teachers have been injured. More than 80% of schools in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed, and every single university in Gaza has been destroyed. The last remaining university in Gaza was demolished by the Israeli military, who detonated 315 mines on January 17th, 2024. Countless libraries and cultural heritage sites have also been destroyed by Israel. These are also estimations. The real numbers are likely much higher. Zionist occupation forces have defiled universities and turned them into detention centers and military bases. Schools designated as safe zones have been mercilessly bombed by the Israeli military. Yesterday, there was a massacre at the Abu Araban school, which had 22 martyrs and 102 wounded. Today, we saw the Salah ad-Din school in the north bombed. As of now, there is 1 martyr from the bombing. Cultural artifacts from campus museums, like at Isra University, have been looted. And since these pillaging, some of these stolen artifacts have been seen on display in Israeli museums. Education is a human right. Many of us have pursued our education to pursue our passions, our dreams, our interests. We've never had our right to education threatened. In fact, I'm sure some of us as kids didn't want to go to school the next day. But in Gaza, these kids have no choice. We pass on our knowledge and educate our youth to help them be successful as they grow up. This is denied to the children and students of Gaza in the 10th month of this genocide. Destroying educational facilities and murdering students and teachers strips Palestinians of their passions, dreams, and interests. With no students to learn and no educators to teach, there will be no one to pass on cultural heritage, history, knowledge, all of the things that we have been able to learn. Scholasticide erases Palestinian history. I urge you to pass this ceasefire resolution to guarantee the right of education, which, as I said, is a human right, to Gaza students. Thank you.
Next.
Good evening. My name is John Holst. I'm a resident of the borough. I come to you this evening requesting that you join over 170 towns across the U.S. and pass a resolution calling for immediate ceasefire in Gaza. A ceasefire is necessary because we are witnessing a genocide against the Palestinian people. I know genocide is a very loaded term, but it is also a legal term with a precise definition. In the Genocide Convention, ratified by the US and Israel, Article 1 of the convention says, genocide, whether committed in time of peace or in time of war, is a crime under international law. Article 2 of this convention defines genocide as committing acts with the, quote, intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Article 3 of the Convention says that committing genocide or complicity in genocide are punishable acts. Israel, as recognized by countless human rights experts and international organizations, is committing genocide in Gaza. And the U.S., by militarily funding Israel, is complicit in this genocide. In other words, both Israel and the U.S. are violating international law, and the U.S. is violating domestic U.S. law by funding the state of Israel as it engages in genocide against the Palestinian people. What does U.S. complicity in this genocide look like? Currently, the U.S. is providing Israel with $3.8 billion annually. Almost all of these billions of our tax dollars go to Israel's military. Why does this matter for Bellefonte? First, we have to come to terms with the fact that all of us here are funding a genocide. We have a moral obligation to say, no, not in our names. Second, if we map the annual $3.8 billion in U.S. tax dollars going to Israel across states and cities, we find that over $135 million annually in Pennsylvanians' tax dollars go to fund the Israeli military. In terms of Bellefonte tax dollars, that amounts to over $100,000 annually. You as council members struggle every year to put together a borough budget, to fix our roads, to pay our borough workers, to maintain our parks and other priorities. I understand that $2.9 million is needed to fix Kepler Pool in Governor's Park. Our kids have been without a pool for how many years now? Our high school baseball players have to change into uniforms in the middle of the parking lot. Did you know that Israel spends $2.5 million of U.S. tax dollars every day in its bombing campaign of Gaza? Israel uses our tax dollars to drop bombs on kids while we can't afford a pool for our kids in this hot weather or changing room for our high school players. We have spoken to our federal representatives. We have held vigils outside their offices. We ask that you help us in sending a clear message to our federal government: ceasefire now. Stop the genocide in our name and with our tax dollars. Money for human needs and local priorities here at home, not for bombing schools, hospitals, and children in Gaza. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tamir Sorek. I'm teaching at the Department of History at Penn State University. My field of study is Israeli and Palestinian society and history, and I'm also represented here in an organization called Academics for Peace. I came here first to confront two counter-arguments against what you heard now. One thing is that Israel is just defending itself, that Israel is reacting to the crimes of Hamas and is trying to destroy Hamas. Recently, no other than the spokesman of the Israeli military said that even in 5 years, Israel won't destroy the Hamas. Now, according to the Lancet article that was published last month, it is plausible that more and about 200,000 Palestinians already lost their lives in this genocidal war. So just imagine what will happen if we let these things continue for more than 5 years. Gaza is already unlivable. People live there without basic infrastructure, and they die for the most benign and simple disease and injuries. So the other thing that you might hear sometimes, that Israel is singled out because of anti-Semitism. So I would like to say that I'm Jewish, I'm Israeli. My grandparents confronted the most horrible expression of anti-Semitism, and there is nothing more insulting to me personally than using their suffering in order to justify a genocide. And I want you to reconsider every time you hear this argument that it is only a matter of anti-Semitism. I would also here to refer to Theodore Meron, who was the legal advisor of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And he is also a Holocaust survivor. And he also a member of the legal advisory team of the International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan. So Theodore Miron recommended that the International Criminal Court seek arrest warrants of Israeli and Hamas leaders for war crimes and crimes against humanity. Now, regarding the Hamas leadership, who have nothing to do, there is no one here in this room who can influence them, and also the current mass murder is done by Israel, not by Hamas. But what Israel is doing is our responsibility. As American citizens, as taxpayers, our money is used in order to kill civilians every single day. So we have a responsibility to raise our voice and to stop these crimes against humanity as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Howdy. Hi, thanks for giving us the chance to speak this evening. It's appreciated. My name's Matt, and I'm a representative of the Student Committee for Defense and Solidarity. We are a student organization comprised of students from Bellefonte, Bollesburg, State College, generally all around Center County, not only from Penn State University. And we often fight, to highlight some of the struggles and try to make our community a better place. So today I want to speak very briefly on why I think it's important for this council, as much of my colleagues have said, why it's important for even this council to speak up against genocide, right? Genocide, defined as the purposeful, targeted, and deliberate extermination of a people, has been a constant reality for Palestinians in both Gaza as well as the West Bank, both before and after October 7th. In the last few months, thousands of children have been murdered by Israeli airstrikes. Famine has gripped Gaza, and there is no tangible insight. The United Nations, the International Criminal Court, and Doctors Without Borders have all condemned the Israeli siege on Gaza as unequivocally genocidal. So you might be wondering, what does the Bellefonte Borough Council have to do with this situation, right? Genocide, specifically through the United States' financial, political, and military support of Israel, is only possible because our tax dollars, our consent go to Israel, our government supporting this, right? The borough, of course, cannot stop shipping weapons to Israel. That's not possible. But what the borough can do is apply pressure. Apartheid in South Africa only ended because people from all levels of government applied a certain level of pressure, and as a result, it ended, right? We're asking for something similar here. In the context of Israeli genocide in Palestine, hundreds of city councils across the nation have acted and condemned this as unequivocal genocide. Major cities like Boston, San Francisco, and even neighboring State College have passed decisive ceasefire resolutions. The decision today, and also in the future, will matter because it adds to the litany of voices, right? This vote also matters because it serves as a direct moral stance against inhuman actions. It reinforces the shared values that Palestinians in Palestine don't have access to, such as human rights, basic dignity, food, water, etc. Community solidarity shows a sense of recognition, justice, and ensures that violent genocide remains in the historical record, showing that this community did not remain silent in the face of massive atrocity. In the past, the United States has failed to speak out. We saw this during the Holocaust. We saw this during Rwanda. Now we are presented with another opportunity to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. That is why I'm here today, and that's why I would argue that this borough council represents a unique voice among many others. Thank you.
Good evening, esteemed council members, honored guests. My name is Yusuf Shabana, and on behalf of the Islamic Society of Central Pennsylvania, I call for a ceasefire in Gaza. And whilst I'm here on behalf of a religious organization, I assure you this matter is not a religious one, but rather a humanitarian one. And the reason I stand here today, or sit in this case, is that it is my God-given duty to change what is wrong and replace it with what is right by any means provided to me. Today, I chose to use my words in hope that you can use yours. The killing of innocent civilians has never been acceptable. It hasn't been acceptable when they were used as human shields. It hasn't been acceptable when they were referred to as collateral damage. It hasn't been acceptable when it's claimed to be accidental. The Talmud, the Bible, and the Quran all state that whoever kills a soul, it is as if he has slain humankind entirely, and whoever saves a soul, it is as if he has saved humankind entirely. And what is there to gain from this conflict? This perpetual cycle of furnishing the IDF with the most high-end advanced weaponry, knowing that they will use it in Gaza, and then sending humanitarian aid to whatever's left of Gaza. It's akin to the man that buys a glass just to shatter it, picks up the pieces, pays for its repair just to shatter it again. Does that make sense to you? And while the monetary, moral, and human cost of this conflict rises ever higher, it saddens me to think that American taxpayers are being played for fools, and it breaks my heart that an entire population has been displaced and tens of thousands have lost their lives in the process. Earlier I asked, what was there to gain from this continued conflict? The answer is nothing. Because with the exception of a few private weapons manufacturing companies in the US, we are all losing in this conflict. But our losses differ. There are those that lose their lives, those that lose their homes, those that lose their loved ones. There are those that lose their money, and those that lose their morals. There are those that lose their humanity, and there are those that lose their hope in humanity. A ceasefire in Gaza is the goal of the Islamic Society of Central Pennsylvania and the Muslim community in Pennsylvania, and it is my sincere hope that it is also your goal and the goal of everyone who claims humanity. I am here because in this matter, your vote counts for much more than mine, and I urge this council to take a stance against this conflict of loss. Call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone out there that has a comment other than asking this Borough Council for a resolution to cease fire in Gaza? Okay. Anyone else? Because we have to move along, folks. We have a ton of other things to get to. So I think we got the message. Is there other people out here that have a comment? Chris?
I can say mine.
All right. Is this another comment on, this will be the last one if this is the same topic. So we got time for one more. What's that? Well, we have time for one more. We have a lot to cover tonight, sir, okay? Go ahead. Step up to the podium and speak.
Oh, we have the whole hour.
Next person can come on up and speak.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
Mayor. My name is Julia Spiker-Kasdorf. I live on Wilson Street here in Bellefonte. A little less than 300 years ago, my Amish ancestors arrived at the port of Philadelphia, seeking asylum from religious persecution in Europe. To this day, Amish people honor William Penn, founder of the Quaker colony, who recognized the dignity of all people, including indigenous people and Africans, and valued religious tolerance and peace. My parents grew up on farms near Belleville, and I was born in Lewistown. I teach at Penn State and have lived in Bellefonte for nearly 25 years. I consider it a great privilege to feel like I belong to this place. I appreciate this town and hope to grow old here, which is why I am so distressed by the United Nations report that 3/4 of the people living in Gaza, about 1.9 million, have been displaced from their homes, often repeatedly. They live in tents, overcrowded shelters, or on the street, and lack basic necessities. They face famine and remain vulnerable to bombardment and other attacks. Why should this crisis matter to a town of 6,000 in the middle of Penn's Woods? You've heard it before. Because our tax dollars provide the bombs that are killing tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians. Because we are a town that welcomes all people. Why should the council work with its citizens and friends to adopt a ceasefire resolution as State College did this past spring and Lancaster did last month? Because such a resolution can send a message to our elected officials to call for an immediate permanent ceasefire as a step toward peace. I feel I must take responsibility for the power that I have simply by virtue of being a citizen of the United States. As people suffering unspeakable tragedies are calling for ceasefire, I feel a duty to join public actions for peace whenever and wherever I can. And so I respectfully ask the council to work with us to advance a ceasefire resolution. I hope that a resolution in this place can be a meaningful gesture for those who are directly impacted by violence, whether they live in Center County, in Gaza, in Israel, or the Palestinian diaspora around the world. Thank you very much.
Come on up.
Thanks for letting us use the whole time. We really appreciate that. My name is Oliver, and I'm a resident of Bellefonte. I've been here for 2 years. I'm in the area for 5, and I'm just going to come speak, from that perspective. I feel like a lot of people have my view, and I wanted you all to know about it. So as a resident of Bellefonte, I'm here to ask the Borough Council members to pass a resolution calling for Israel to accept a ceasefire agreement to stop its genocide of the Palestinian people. A resolution calling for a ceasefire will help to show that the people of Bellefonte, like all the people who are here and more, are coming together, right? We're coming together, as so many are doing around the country, through a righteous and just cause to end the Israeli government's genocide of the Palestinian people. Why does this matter? Because Israel does not have a right to genocide people to steal Palestinian land. From 1948, when Israel first initiated its colonization of Palestine, until now, Israel has used political violence to murder and displace Palestinians in order to seize their land. Israel has accelerated this practice of genocide against Palestinians in the last 9 to 10 months that we are all witnesses to as we see the images coming in daily of the brutal massacres and assassinations that the Israeli military commits against Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. It is not self-defense to butcher children. It is not self-defense to wipe out entire families. It is not self-defense to demolish homes or commit other countless war crimes. What's just as wrong is that the United States government is enabling this genocide by supplying the Israeli military with bombs, planes, and munitions. Against our will, taxes from our incomes. We all go to work and we get taxed. Our labor, right, from that is used to fund this very genocide. So as many people have said today, we all have a duty and responsibility to do what we can from the inside of the United States to stop this genocide that our government and its leaders, no matter what you are on this political spectrum, they all do it in committing this genocide. So by passing a resolution for Israel to accept a ceasefire agreement, the Borough Council will be doing the right thing of helping to unite our local community in opposition to genocide. I just want to repeat that. You'll be helping us all come and unite in opposition to genocide. We should all be united in this aim of ending Israel's genocide of the Palestinian people if we want to say we are a community who values life and upholds justice. This is an issue that is unifying all justice-loving people. Only those who support this genocide see the effort to end the genocide as something that divides us. But as you see with the amount of people who came today, and more will keep coming, the people here in Bellefonte are in unity with ending the genocide, and I hope that this council does the right thing by supporting this goal and working with us to pass a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for providing us with this time. My name is Dan Letwin. I'm a longtime resident of State College, and just as long time an appreciator of the historical community of Bellefonte. When our children were quite young, we often came here, but not least we took them to the museum where one can see the physical evidence that Bellefonte was a station on the Underground Railroad. The message being that here, citizens of Bellefonte and of this community were prepared to stand up against injustice taking place far away. The idea that we're citizens of Bellefonte, we're citizens of Pennsylvania, but we're also citizens of the wider world. I'd like to note that this past year saw the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And that occasion was celebrated by people around the world, including many in our own community, and with good reason, for the adoption of this document, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, was historic. At its core, the Declaration proclaimed that the principles that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity, that everyone is entitled to a certain set of rights and freedoms, including protection from arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile, the right to equality before the law, the right to a nationality, the right to democratic citizenship, the right of everyone to take part in the government of one's country, to a government chosen by universal suffrage, the right to a decent standard of living, one that would allow for an existence worthy of human dignity, featuring the right of all to adequate food, clothing, housing, medical care, and so forth. And emblazoned in the Declaration was the principle that these protections, these rights, these freedoms were the claim of all people, regardless of ethnicity. The adoption of these principles in 1948 was anchored really in two convictions. One, that the affirmation of human rights and the protection of human rights was essential to the preservation of peace. In other words, these two goals were inseparable. You couldn't have one without the other. And second, that it was the rightful business of the world community to assert these rights, to demand that nations around the world would respect them. For 75 years, these principles put forth in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights have served as the foundation of our conception of human rights around the world. And for the same 75 years, the situation of the Palestinian people, the ongoing uprooting from their land and worldly goods, the denial of equal rights before the law, of their right to a genuine recognized nationality, they're being besieged in occupied territories by a state in which they have little, if any, say, the deprivation of basic material necessities, of a decent standard of living, all have stood as a pronounced violation of the principles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And the current war in Gaza stands as an affirmation, it seems to me, of the founding principle of the UN, that human rights and peace within and between countries are indeed inseparable. The current lethal onslaught on 2 million Palestinians, whatever the provocation from Hamas, is wildly disproportionate to the attack from Hamas. It amounts, as people have said with great eloquence tonight, to nothing less than genocide. If our celebrations of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are to be anything but hollow, it seems to me we must speak out as local communities to an end of the killing, for an end of the killing. Thank you for your time.
I'll send an email, thank you.
Comment? Hey, folks, if you came, oh, you're coming up?
Good evening and thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Maria Vedder and I'm a resident of the borough. On March 27 this year, I wrote the following letter to Representative Thompson. I have not received an answer yet, so I will be sharing it with you tonight. Dear Representative Thompson, I write this letter in the hopes that you will be willing to vote for a resolution that will condemn the ongoing genocide in the Gaza Strip and demand a full and permanent ceasefire in Palestine. At this time of crucial and great moral decisions for us all, I want to remember the sacrifices of Americans such as Aaron Bushnell, who have heroically offered their lives to remind us of what is right. As you know, Aaron, a young American U.S. Air Force member, immolated himself on February 25th this year outside the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C., to call attention to the desperate situation of Palestinians. While he stated that, as an active member of the military, he refused to be part of the ongoing genocide. I personally think of Bellefonte as a place that has historically sided with what is right. I see daily those pictures of young men that served in World War II to defend other peoples and countries from the horrors of Nazism. I think of Bellefonte as the place where its leaders took part in the Underground Railroad to free others from slavery. I am proud to live here and tell many others about it. In the name of all those who served before you for the common good, I beg you to consider this resolution. If not now, when? Thank you.
Others? Okay, folks, if you came and you spoke, can I please ask that you put your name and contact information on our sign-in sheet so we can recall who was here and what you spoke about. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Is there any other public comment?
Could we also have anybody who was just here in the room for our records, even if they did not speak?
Yep. Is there any other public comment? Anybody else out there have anything to say before council? Okay, if not, I'm going to move on to the next agenda item. That is, so your comments will be taken under consideration as a borough council. We'll discuss it and at a later meeting, all right? It won't be acted upon tonight. So if you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're welcome to. If not, please sign your name and information there so we know who you are, and I'd appreciate that, okay? Thank you, folks. Rita needs her microphone back. All right, next item is communications written. We have a memo from the Bellefonte Authority pertaining to the Big Spring cover wellhead location. That was in your packet. There's no council action required on that item. You have anything to add, Rahul?
No, we just, the Borough Authority, and Mr. Johnson's a member of the authority, not to call you out, but anyway, we just wanted to bring this to your attention that at the July meeting, there was a discussion about a possible solution for the Big Spring cover that involved the location of wells, possibly in Talleyrand Park. At the August meeting, which will be the 6th of August, we'll get an update on that report, and we'll let you know how things are going, but we wanted to bring this to your attention. Thanks.
Mr. Johnson.
One other comment to that. We did have an informal discussion with some of the stage members in your absence. We had a brief meeting. The chair of the authority and myself met with the Talleyrand stage folks to let them know that it would probably be wise for them to slow down the design process until we have a plan in place, what we might do with the Big Spring cover. So they are aware of it, and they're happy that we contacted them. So.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered routine and will not be acted upon, or will be acted upon by one single motion. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll
Brackville.
second it, Dan.
Okay. So can we approve the rest of it? Yes. Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda minus the council meeting minutes from July 1st. Is that right, Rita?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Barbara.
Dan?
Second, Johnson.
Thank you.
What are we seconding now? I thought we already did that.
We need to vote on what we approved.
Well, we had a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. She wants to pull part of it, so we can't approve it.
So I don't think I just think we do the first motion and then we go to see her.
We can do it that way. It's simpler.
Sounds simple.
Okay.
Probably to most people that are watching.
Mr. Bernier.
Yes.
Mr. Brackville.
Yes.
Ms. Clayton.
Yes.
Ms. Dan.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. McKean.
Yes.
Ms. Purnell.
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Yes.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey.
Yes.
Yes. Rita.
Okay, so I'll apologize in advance. I had kind of thought that we were past this issue of the meeting minutes since we had adopted a new system, and I thought it was going really well. I was kind of disappointed to open up the packet this evening and see that there were changes in there, and I had read the original minutes and I thought they looked perfectly fine, with the exception that Sean McKean was not listed as being excused. And I see in this version, she was listed excused but then crossed out. So I don't know if somebody said she was and then somebody said she wasn't. I'm not sure what's going on, but I listened to the meeting for like 15 seconds and listened to the roll call, and it definitely said she was excused. So that certainly should be marked as being excused there.
She was excused, but she ended up coming in, like,
But
right after.
shouldn't it be marked as being
It should.
excused since she was
Here.
listed? Okay, well, that doesn't happen very often, so I don't really know. And that was a really short meeting, too.
17 minutes.
Yes.
So we can make that change on the minutes?
Yes, we'll make
Okay.
a change.
So my comments are based on the fact that I'm hoping that we can come to agreement as a council to not make changes to the minutes unless it's something that changes the minutes substantially, like little comments about changing the way things are worded when things were worded perfectly fine. I don't think that's necessary. And actually, one of the changes on page 3 in the second paragraph was changed to be wrong because we've got a word that's capitalized after a comma. Now, I know that's trivial, but again, making changes like this is also kind of trivial in my opinion. Also, the wording on the second page about the folks that spoke about the donation, the sentence, "The money was raised over several years by the Bellefonte Children's Fair," was perfectly fine the way it was. So there was no reason to change it to the other wording. I mean, maybe it sounds better to somebody else, but it doesn't change the fact of the way the sentence was worded, that it still got the point across. So I guess my point is, I'm just hoping we can get past making trivial changes and just stick to things that are more substantial.
Yeah, I kind of thought that's what we talked about when we made the changes, but
Right, and I thought that would solve the problem, because it seemed like the method that we adopted would be straightforward and to the point and not allow for a lot of, I'll call it nitpicking, because I kind of feel like that's what it is. And it's very frustrating to me to see that.
Okay, here's, what we agreed to was, we do the motion, we do the second, we do the discussion, and we pass it or we fail it. That's it. I'm getting really tired of having to go through this every time we sit down at this table. It's too, making it something simple harder.
yeah, I think you speak for all of us, Randy. You're not the only one frustrated, okay? We all sit through the same thing you do. We are all just as confused, so you're not alone there. What we need is a solution, not to just be upset about it for the last 12 years. Well, what's the solution? How do we fix it? That's what we all want to know. How do we fix it? Maybe we don't just let individual council members submit their changes and make somebody change them. You know, maybe we come up with a policy where they have to go through somebody first, all right? I don't know. I don't understand it either. I don't understand why we're still talking about nitpicky changes to the minutes. Does anybody? Does anybody have a real solution other than being frustrated by it and tired of it? Which is what I'm hearing. We're tired and we're frustrated about it. Well, how do we fix it?
How about if there are changes, because like the changes, I put the excused in because Shauna wasn't here at the meeting, and I looked at the. She was here. Okay, so, but she wasn't at the beginning when we did the roll call.
We're starting to talk about something that we're all frustrated about. How do we fix the
Let me
minutes?
finish
Go ahead.
what I'm trying to say. There were some things in there that the transcriber didn't have the information, so like the names of the people representing the Bellefonte Rotary Club, that needed to be added. There was, and then she said, she made a comment about things being unintelligible. That's not necessary for the minutes, so I scratched it out. Because the first part of the thing is what happened.
Yeah, but maybe the changes to the meeting's minutes should be approved and agreed upon by all of us, Joanne. Maybe that
So
would help.
that's what I'm trying to say, is that's what I thought we were doing when I made those changes. However, if that is uncomfortable for everybody, then we should designate somebody in the administration to take whatever comments we've made and have them take those comments under advisement and create something to send to the council. That's where I was headed.
So your idea to fix the problem is to have somebody in administration
Look at what.
review the suggested changes to the minutes.
Yes.
Simply said.
Yes.
Any others, please?
I'm just wondering if Rita might want to take over that job.
I'm happy, I'm certainly happy to do it as the borough secretary. Once comments come in, I can give at least a trial basis of trying to clarify the minutes. I know we get various comments, and sometimes we're at odds as what actually happened, but I'll give it a shot as far as trying to clean up the minutes, make a clean copy that has like the extras out of it, and put that in the packet for your review. And then there's still, hopefully it limits the comments, or maybe does away with the comments, but I'm happy to do that, the Friday before the meeting.
Do we archive the videos of each meeting?
Yes, Doug, but I don't take time to review the
Right,
videos.
okay, so, well, my question is, they're archived for 5 years, 10 years, forever?
At least, yes. Yes.
So if they, let the stenographer produce the minutes, staff look over it, see if there's changes to be made, council sends comments, If there is something that's in error that we're really concerned about, we can always go back to the video. We have that video as a reference. If there is something that is drastically wrong, let the minutes stand as they are.
I agree with Doug, and because sometimes she can't understand what they're saying. All she's doing is saying, I didn't understand. And so now we blow it up into something else. And again, a motion, a second, a discussion, and a pass or fail. That's what we had it cut down to for a year at least, or 2 years. And I just don't see the sense in having to go back through this again.
We're not here to create a thesis. We're here to have general minutes of the meeting. If there is something in particular that is not correct, we can always go back and look at the video. That's why they're archived. So,
Yeah.
15 years ago, I don't know when CNET started, we had minutes of the meeting. They worked, and we went back and looked at them if needed and solved whatever questions we've had. You know, I think we're just let the stenographer produce the minutes, put them out, and
But that's what we've been doing.
yeah.
And then there's been consent agenda. Minutes have been pulled for the 3 years that I've been on this council. I'm not sure when it was happening that they were voted on and passed, but for the 3 years I've been here, we've been doing this, right?
It's been longer than
The
that.
ones yeah, the ones that got elected with me have to be nodding their head going, this has been ridiculous for 3 years. I don't even understand what we're doing. That's what we're talking about. Is that not what are we there yet, people? Are we there to want to fix this? Or are we just going to let the stenographer do it and then next meeting have someone want to pull the minutes?
I would come prepared, if the stenographer's minutes weren't correct or accurate, I would come prepared to say, I watched the video, this is how it is, I would like this changed. Simple as that. If it's something major, I'm not going to worry about a name or two.
Okay, Shauna?
Well, it was sometime during the 3 years that we were having issues with the minutes, and wasn't it put in place that if we didn't agree with the minutes that were shown, this is how I believe Alyssa became involved, and if we had any issues with it or see changes that needed to be made, we would email Alyssa and she would make those changes. That seemed to work. Maybe we go back to that instead of bringing it up at the meeting.
Well, that is what is happening, but my point is that things are being changed that are unnecessary. So things are being sent to Alyssa to change that were really fine to start with.
Okay,
And
so
I just really feel like the person doing the meeting minutes should just be left to do their job. Unless there's something glaringly wrong, leave them alone. That's my point.
All right, can we make that?
And one thing I want to add to that is that when people speak in public, as I understand from the rules, their names need to be in the minutes. So when it's that we don't know what they are, that we need to find out. And you listen to the tape. Sometimes you can't even understand it on the tape. That happened this particular time. So I let Alyssa know that there was still a problem there. Somehow she found out that what this woman's last name was, but neither Don nor I, because I asked him afterwards, and he had no idea, nor did I. But I think for consistency, if someone speaks in public from the audience, we need to acknowledge that and have their names in it. And that was the major change that I made.
So can we fix what she brought up? Do we have to vote on that again? I'm not even sure what, I can't even remember now.
Technically, there really isn't anything that has to be fixed, but I just wanted to bring up that I'm really frustrated seeing minor changes in wording that don't really affect the meaning of the whole minutes, and it's just useless to continue to do that.
Maybe as a group, we can agree to somehow not allow that to happen again. How about that? All right. Everybody good if we move on? Yep. Reports?
Now, do you want to
Nope,
take a
we gotta
vote
we gotta
on the
do a
minutes?
vote? Okay.
Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tosti Vasey?
Yes.
Next is reports, elected officials and staff reports. We start with Mayor Buddy Johnson.
I'm going to defer my time to Officer Whitmer and Officer Holt.
Thank you, Mayor. Acting Chief Whitmer. We appreciate you submitting your report. Is there?
Sure. I'll go over that real quick if I could
Okay,
first.
yep, please.
Yes. As you can see, month of June was pretty active for our department. We participated in a lot of public relation events. 72nd Annual Children's Fair. We had a table there. Officer Larkin attended it. I'd also like to mention that Pizza Mia did pizza with the police. So I'd like to thank John Jennings for his generosity in including us in that. That was a great event. So if you made it down there, it was well attended. We also assisted the committee of the Bellefonte Cruise. It was the 35th annual Bellefonte Cruise. It was, my understanding, it was packed. This year it was well attended. I'd like to thank all the surrounding departments. We do have a mutual aid agreement, and I'd like to thank all the departments who assisted us. We had 23 officers that night come in and help us from Spring Township, Penn State Police, State College Police, and Patton Township. Their assistance was greatly appreciated. Also, the Center County Sheriff's Office and the Probation Department. We also were able to send a couple of our officers to trainings this month. Mandated stuff, recertifications, things like that. So it was a good month for us, pretty active. Does anyone have any questions with my report?
Anyone have any questions in general to the police officers, for the police officers?
Yes, Joanne.
Yeah, you changed it up a little bit, made it a little bit easier, I think. I don't read so good to begin with, but it's much easier to see and read and understand, so we appreciate that. Questions or comments for our officers? We have Officer Whitmer, Officer Holt. Officer Holt, how many years of service do you have with the Bellefonte Borough Department?
It'll be 23 years, August 8th.
Well, he'll just speak up. 23 years, 23 years. Can you comment, Officer Holt or Officer Whitmer, about how the department's been going since the changes were made and how you guys feel, what you may need, what the council can do for you?
Right now, under our new leadership of Acting Chief Whitmer, things have been going great. Morale has increased considerably. I think people are finding it a lot of fun to come to work lately. And it's been going great. You all have been wonderful. We have no complaints whatsoever.
Good. And how about the new officers? How are they doing?
Very well.
Good.
Yep.
And what's the status of, not to pick into your business too much, what's the status of maybe hiring more or the testing procedure? What's going on with that?
We're completing up the hiring process for taking tests. We're in the PT phase. We have one more applicant coming in from out of state to complete. And then we'll send it away and we'll establish a list through civil service at that point.
So how many applicants?
We had 6. We had 1 not show up, 1 dropped out, so we're down to 4.
Okay.
So I'd also like to add in the direction of our department. So as the acting chief, I think our department's doing very well right now. We're heading in the right direction. When I got appointed into this position, I had to come up with goals that Officer Holt and I had to come up with for our officers to meet. How are we going to motivate these guys? How are we going to bring them back around? How are we going to rejuvenate our department, make it maintain that status that I know you guys expect, the borough, the taxpayers expect, And just to let you all know, each and every one of the officers have stepped up, have met our goals to accomplish this. Like he said, the morale's up. We're excited about, we just moved into our new department. It's great. Laid out perfect, move-in ready. We're excited about the renovations. Working with Mr. Stewart. We're getting those finalized, so the downstairs part will be finished probably next year until it gets started. The officers are getting some time off now that we have the SROs out of the school. We added 2 additional officers. They're getting their time off, well-deserved time off. We're getting the guys trainings. They're enjoying that. They get to learn new things, and also we need to keep up with changes in the laws. We're able to do that now as well. Officer Waller's been doing a great job with our Facebook page, letting people know what we are doing, and not just, we do more than just arrest people. And I think if you follow our page, you're seeing we are out there, like pizza with the police. The mayor was there making pizzas. It was a great time handing out PR stuff. We have a lot more events like that coming up this year that we're going to attend. We're going to attend every PR event we can. Also, I believe I continue to establish a working relationship with Mr. Stewart and Mr. Holderman. I think things have been going well with working with them, with communications. And also, I thank you all for the support. I feel like you've all given me support in trying to turn this thing around, and I think we have. I appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Other comments? No?
Real brief. I just want to thank both of you and the entire department for your commitment and dedication on a daily basis for our community. And as mayor, I'm extremely proud to work with each of you, and thank you for your transparency, and keep doing what you're doing. And I think we're doing a great job, a great service for this community. So thank you, and thank you to everybody who's part of it.
Thanks, guys. Next, reports. They were in your packet. I think the next thing we have to do is a HARB project, Office of Community Affairs. A motion and a second to approve the following HARB project at 177 East Lynn Street.
So moved.
Thank you. It's a replacement of a deck.
I'll second Brackville.
Thank you, Mr. Brackville.
Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey?
Yes.
The next HARB meeting will be held on Tuesday, July 23rd at 8:30 a.m. The next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 12th at 5 p.m. Mr. Barr's report was submitted for your review. He's not here. Mr. Stewart's report was submitted. Do you have anything to add, or do you have any questions for Mr. Stewart? No? All right. All the liaison reports were in your packet tonight. Mr. Holderman or Mr. Brackbill, do you guys have anything there? Are you on there? Yeah.
Just real quick,
Civil
the Center Region Code of Governments was a canceled meeting, and so no sense going and looking at it.
Okay. Special appointments, those were both submitted. All right, that takes care of the liaison reports. Next is current and old business. First item is a revised community development block grant, schedule for fiscal year 2024. There's no council action needed or requested. That was in your packet for information. The next item there was a memo from the finance director answering questions asked at the July 1st meeting. The responses to be read aloud to council. We all got them as part of our. Does anybody have any questions or want further comment on those? She clarified.
I think, Lori, because
tried
it was brought up in a council meeting to the public, she wanted Lori wanted to, for the record, she wanted the public to know what the answer was to the question. That's why she wanted it read. So as of the July 1st, 2024 council meeting, the question was asked about the donations in prior years being used to pay for the overage in line item 401.980, mayor miscellaneous expense. In 2022, the mayor began receiving donations for a banner on the water tower. Donations were received into 2023. A total of $7,700 was raised. The banner idea fell through. It was then decided to do a sign at the Governor's Park ball field. Lori's attached a copy of what the sign will look like, and at the cost, as you can see, the cost of the sign is not anticipated to more than the revenues raised. So therefore, the donations were revenue received in prior years. As Lori has stated previously, when it is decided by council during the budget process to use prior year revenues, it is shown in the use of revenues line item. That's line item 399.001 in the general fund. This is a budget number only. It is the use of prior year revenue in the current year. This is done when reserves are going to be used. In this instance, the donations were received in 22 and 23. These funds were accounted for as revenues in those years. By budgeting the use of reserves, it lets the public know we are using revenue from prior years that was saved for this purpose. It is simply a number to show the public that prior year revenues or reserves are being used. It is part of being transparent. The goal is to have not less, the net loss be less than or equal to the amount of reserves that was anticipated would need to be used. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact Lori.
I too would be happy to answer any questions about the reserve and the status of the money.
So I'd like to thank Lori for that information. It was very, very helpful. However, at the last meeting, I did ask that we create another report because this use of reserves doesn't tell us how much is actually in reserves. And I don't want to mess up her budgeting purposes at all. I don't want to mess up the what do we call it? Budget versus actual report. So what I was thinking of, and I asked last time, is that we create a report on how and where and when the use of reserves are being used. So that way we know how much of the prior year's funds are being used and how much is left. So we have a good idea, even though it doesn't show up in the budget because we don't want to mess those annual budgets, but we have a better idea of what's going on with those reserve funds. So it's basically a reserve fund report.
So you're asking for Lori or the management to create another report?
Yeah, basically, I would call it a reserve fund report. So we know how much is in the general fund reserves, in the parks reserves.
Can you put that in an email, Joanne,
Sure, I
please,
can do
so
that.
we can
I
have
can do that.
So we can discuss it with Lori for
Thank you.
You're welcome. The last item under the current business is the Public Works contract. Initial meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, July 24th at 2:30 p.m. No council actions required. New business is next. Memo from the Assistant Borough Manager on various projects and updates within the borough was submitted to you. Anything further, Don?
For those that may not have seen it, we did get, PennDOT added $36,360 to the Streetscape Phase 2 grant, so we are pleased about that because that will help.
Thank you. Next is the 8th Annual Dylan Krunick Memorial Charity Baseball Tournament request for a fee waiver. Need a motion and a second to approve this.
I'll make the motion, Johnson.
Thank you.
I'll second it, Clayton.
Thank you. It's a baseball tournament held on August 10th and 11th at Governor's Park. Again, it's the 8th annual, so we've done this before.
Discussion?
Discussion?
Yes. This group is located in Canandaigua, New York. It is not a Bellefonte-based nonprofit, and as such does not qualify for a Bellefonte-based nonprofit waivers. If we were to waive this fee, and we haven't done it before, we'll have set a precedent for waiving fees for any other nonprofit that comes before us. I don't think that is appropriate.
I think we did waive it last year.
I believe we have done
It
this
was the same
before, and we
argument
went
last
through
year.
the same thing last year. They have a
Okay.
Bellefonte address. Dylan Krunick was a Bellefonte student. This is a baseball tournament. They would like the fees to be waived. All proceeds go to childhood cancer research. They are active members of the community. The home team dugout is named after Dylan Krunick. The family, when they get a chance, they do get back here and they support Bellefonte wholeheartedly.
Vote.
Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey?
No.
Thank you. Next is a vacancy announcement. There is a vacancy on the Bellefonte Borough Authority with a term ending December 31st, 2028. All interested volunteers, please submit the volunteer application and letter of interest to the Bellefonte Borough Authority, 301 North Spring Street, Suite 200, Bellefonte, PA, no later than 4 p.m. Friday, August 2nd, for consideration. Again, that's a vacancy announcement.
Mr. President, I have a comment about that.
Yeah.
If I had a brief discussion with some other members, and if we wait until August 2nd, we were hoping to have that appointee before a recommendation to the council before the August council meeting. So I was going to ask our chair if we could have a special meeting and review the applicants. Therefore, that would reduce this application time. If we don't do that, that means it would probably be September until that appointment could be filled. So we have not gotten a set date, or if we will have a special meeting just for the recommendation. So I was wondering if we could push that deadline back a little bit for the applications so that we could perhaps approve that recommendation for council's meeting in August, the
So can
first
we
meeting in
change the
August.
announcement?
We can say just submit them as soon as possible. There is some consideration of having a special meeting. As soon as I know the date, or we get confirmation of the date,
Okay.
we can put that out on our website.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Next is the CATA Non-Participating Municipality Service Agreement. I need a motion and a second to approve the CATA Non-Participating Municipality Service Agreement.
I'll make that motion, Clayton.
Thank you.
Second, Brackbill.
Thank you. Any discussion? Thank you, Don.
Mr. Bernier?
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill?
Yes.
Ms. Clayton?
Yes.
Ms. Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McKean?
Yes.
Ms. Purnell?
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick?
Yes.
Ms. Tosti-Vasey?
Yes.
The CATA local match for state operating financial assistance resolution is before us for a motion and a second to approve the resolution 071-52024-01.
I'll make that motion, Clayton.
Thank you, Deborah.
I'll second it. Dan?
Thank you, Barbara. Discussion?
Yes. Just a question. I thought in our budget we had put in $30,000 for CATA. This one says it's like 33. Let me look. They're asking for an additional amount of funds for other operating expenses beyond the 30,000. Where is that coming out of the budget?
First of all, the budget's always, from CATA, is always in two parts. There's an operating part and a capital part. You are correct, the operating is up to 30,000, and there's about four plus thousand for the capital budget. The budget is a fiscal year, so it starts here July 1st and goes to June 30th of 25. We will have to adjust the 25 budget accordingly to show this difference. That's all we need to do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Next is, well, we have to vote, I'm sorry.
Mr. Bernier.
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill.
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton.
Yes.
Ms. Dan.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. McKean.
Yes.
Ms. Purnell.
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Yes.
Ms. Tosti Vasey.
Yes.
Next is the Civil Service Commission amended rules and regulations. Need a motion and a second to approve the amended rules and regulations.
I'll
So
make
moved, Brackbill.
Thank you.
second, Dan.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what the changes were from the old to the new?
I'll let Chief Whitmer talk to you about that, because you work with, no, we all work with it, with the commission, but I'll let Bill take care of it.
Doug, could you give the chief your mic?
Doug,
I thought those changes were in the memo that you signed, that's why.
It is, it was.
It was in our packet.
So in reviewing the civil service rules and regulations for the borough, I discovered that I don't have it in front of me, the regulations were not up to date by some of the wordage stating that the applicants needed to have a diploma from an Act 120. Thank you. Okay. It said the applicant must receive a diploma from the Act 120, which is our police certification. And what this was not allowing is out-of-state applicants, because out-of-state applicants will not have an Act 120 certification through the state of Pennsylvania. So some wordage had to be changed to say Act 120 school or out-of-state equivalent so they can participate in our test. That was all changed prior to the test being taken by some of the applicants on Friday. So that was amended and changed prior to that.
updates and changes, which were then submitted to the commission.
Correct.
Which is now asking for us to approve them.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's what I needed to know, because reading this, I didn't know what was the same and what was different. So thank you.
Thank you.
Some other new information on this as well is we're not done making changes. We received two different items, or two different, what do we call that there, from the, God.
So the attorney had provided us with up-to-date rules, two
Yes.
options that the civil service members need to pick. I haven't reviewed them yet, so I can't speak upon them, but they will be meeting to update our rules and regulations to make sure they're up to date. We also had to, I guess we'll speak about it at another meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a couple meetings, I think, to make sure what we're looking at and which one we want to use. It'll benefit Bellefonte the best.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Vote. Any other discussion?
I have a request. I saw the plans today for the police station renovations, and they look phenomenal. It looks exactly what we initially had in mind before it was drawn out to be something much more. Is it possible at the next meeting we could get a review of maybe a time frame and the procedures to move forward to go about beginning the work?
We can certainly try. We have Mike Leakey, the architect, working on the final drawing set, and we'll try to have that by the next meeting, and we'll put some time in the work session to go over that.
Great, thank you, Russ.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we need to vote on the Civil Service Commission amendments and rules.
Mr. Bernier.
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill.
Yes.
Ms. Cleaton.
Yes.
Ms. Dan.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. McKean.
Yes.
Ms. Purnell.
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Yes.
Ms. Tosti Vasey.
Yes.
And finally, we have the Bellefonte Historical and Cultural Association request to use the Spring Creek Waterfront Walkway for a community art exhibit. I'll need a motion and a second to approve it.
I'll make that motion. Dan?
Thank you.
Second to Cleaton.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yes. I think that this request should go to our solicitor or to a lawyer with, let me find out how I put it. hold on a sec. Or to a lawyer with constitutional expertise. I called PSAB this afternoon and talked to Shelley Hauk.
Shelley, yes.
And she said that there are 2 different court cases that have come up regarding signage and postings on municipal properties. One of them was a Commonwealth court case, and the other one was a U.S. Supreme Court case. I don't know if this posting of the artwork falls within the limitations of what we can and cannot do. I do know that we have allowed stuff on the Veterans Bridge, and if it were there, I wouldn't be asking this. But because this is on the waterfront property where we have prohibited anything else, she suggested that we check with our solicitor before we move forward on this.
Any other comments or discussion from council members?
Yes, I just have a concern about how this artwork would be protected because it's up for 1 full week, and I don't know if the police would cover that or just what they have in mind, but I'd like to hear their plan for that.
Kathy Bradenball's here tonight, and she's the person that drafted the letter, so she could address any questions if you want to ask her.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about.
I agree with that. It's just
Did you hear the question, Kathy? They asked if, yeah, you, please, you'll have to steal a microphone from Ms. Purnell here. I'll give you a microphone. Here. The question was asked about if we approve the art to be out on the walkway, let's say is it a week?
I was proposing a month, the
A
month of
month.
September.
How would it be protected, both from the weather and from possible damage or, overnight?
I'm not concerned about the weather because it's just going to be acrylic painted on canvases, which should be fine for a month. And I also really wasn't concerned about vandalism because I guess Bellefonte seems like it's very safe. I don't know. I have not seen a lot of vandalism. I think I was just trusting that it will be okay. I do not have a plan for that.
And I think
but I would welcome
I think
advice.
depending on how long, if they're like hanging or however they are along the stone wall, they might even be high enough out of reach. That's what I was kind of envisioning.
Yeah, I was envisioning more at eye level, so they would be within reach.
Kathy, is your microphone on? Is the little green light on?
It is.
Okay. If you could just speak up a little bit, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay.
What can you tell us so that people who may be watching will know what is the art going to be of? What are the paintings going to be paintings of?
The suggestion is the theme is our town life on the Spring Creek. So I had given a whole list of suggestions for people to look around, things they
Things in
like
the community.
around town, in the community, their yards, the park, just anything sort of themed around our town in the Spring Creek.
Okay. Thank you. Johnson,
Yeah.
we can't hear you. We can't hear you. What's the matter with you?
How are you gonna, I read the proposal,
Yeah.
and I was confused of how you were going to secure them, like you're gonna hang them with fishing line or hooks? You said you weren't
we
gonna
don't
drill
have
the wall.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna attach anything to the wall. We have some ideas of how to maybe run line or cord from the fence of, yep, mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry. So if the wind blows and it blows and hurts the artwork,
It would be attached in multiple places. Like
Okay.
if it's the canvas, it would maybe
Okay.
have eye hooks on either side that would be
okay.
attached or
So
top
we
and
as the
bottom.
borough assume no liability
No,
for
no. I
some
think, yeah.
vandals, or if the photo or the artwork crashes to the ground and it's worth $10,000, we're not
I
gonna
mean,
reimburse.
I'm asking community folks, anyone and everyone to do it, so like it's valuable because it's artwork done by people, but it's,
Okay.
I mean, it's not
Okay,
art that's hanging in a gallery.
just curious
yeah.
how you were going to hang them.
And maybe it would be a good idea to have people sign a waiver,
Okay.
you know, understanding that the work will be hanging outside.
Okay. Well,
in
thanks so
public.
much. I think it's going to be great.
Other
Quick
questions?
question. So with this being a month long, and what time of the month is it, or what month is it?
September.
September. You know, we still get rain and wind that's going to be pushing that around. I'm concerned about that because especially if it's overnight and it ends up in the stream, that's going to be a problem. I think for fish and boat, we're going to get in trouble for that. I'm just not sure how you're going to secure that and not have to go down there several times to maybe tighten it up a little more or whatever it might going to take. But you might not know it until it actually comes off the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would be concerned about that. I mean, we would definitely make sure that it's secured, and we walk by there pretty much every single day, and I would make sure to go by often to check on the security.
Okay.
I'd like to just suggest, we have told the Car Cruise, which is another nonprofit in town, no signage whatsoever on the fence, on the wall. We put them over on Mr. Songer's property this past June when they had the car show, because that's private property. I do agree with Joanne about getting a legal opinion. This would be the first of allowing anything in the walkway area, which is a public walkway owned by Bellefonte Borough. Once we open the door, it's open. You can't shut it. If you try to shut it down the road, we're going to get sued for something. So I have that concern. I just think Borough Council needs to know what you're approving if you say yes. So I think it would be wise to spend a little bit of money to get a legal opinion.
So a parliamentary question, should I make a motion to send it to the solicitor?
I think that would be, I would recommend that.
Okay, so moved.
A second.
Could I make one comment before we do that? If this doesn't work out for you, I would suggest that you approach the different businesses in the downtown. I know I would be more than proud to, you know, put some in my storefront, well, it's just not a storefront, but my main window to display, and people could wander around town and look at them.
Yeah, we've considered that as well. I think we kind of like the outdoor idea, but if we have to, we'll find another venue.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Suggest, Mr. Songer's property is, you know, a possibility. He owns all that green space and has been very open to allowing the crews and other folks to use the property. So that might be a quicker, easier solution to keep in mind. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, what they're saying here, in case you were following it, is that we'll take your request and put it before our solicitor or our lawyer to see if this is something that we can legally do on a public sidewalk, is I think the gist of what I'm hearing. And then we would have to get back to you on this. So, do you understand that? Do you have any questions for us? We appreciate you sitting through the meeting. You picked a dandy to attend.
Oh,
I'm
that's
sorry
good.
that you
That's
had to
good.
wait till the end, which was kind of my point. You know, there's people here that have actual things that they need to speak on, and I'm sorry you had to wait to be last, but that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna vote to put your request to put these art paintings on the walkway before our attorney to see if it's something we can legally do.
Okay.
And Kathy, depending on the council vote, as Ralph said, you could still have them on the waterfront instead of him coming down over from the fence. They would be up on the fence. Might be a little bit higher for you, but people will have to look up to see them. But Tom Songer would probably be willing to do that for you.
Okay.
And then you could attach it. Probably would be more secure anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if the fence, where the boundary is.
I thought the fence belonged to us.
Yeah.
Is the fence?
Yes, I don't like to correct anybody, but the fence is part of the right-of-way.
So that is not possible then?
Yes, for example, back again in June, the banners were on some kind of stakes or something. They were not on the fence. we have been very consistent with not putting signage on the fence.
So there's a bit of confusion. So we're going to have to send it, I think we're going to vote here to have it go to our attorney to see what he or she thinks and move on from there, okay?
Okay.
All right,
And
is
then
that what the motion is, to vote?
Mr. Bernier.
Yes.
Mr. Brackbill.
Yes.
Ms. Clayton.
Yes.
Ms. Dan.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. McKean.
Yes.
Ms. Purnell.
Yes.
Ms. Sedgwick.
Yes.
Ms. Tosti Vasey.
Yes.
Should we table this to just keep it so we don't forget to come back to it?
Well, we'll wait to hear back. We'll send a specific request to the
Yes,
attorney to
yeah,
get back to us, and
yes,
then we'll put it on the agenda.
Yes, that's the motion.
that's what I
Well,
was
we were
going to
just
ask
gonna,
you.
I was just gonna say, Mr. Stewart, do you have an idea of how
To
quickly?
the best of our ability, which is really in the hands of our solicitor, we'll hopefully have an answer in writing by the next meeting, which is August 5th. That's the
Okay.
best we can do.
I probably wouldn't hesitate to contact Mr. Songer, though, for
Yeah.
a backup.
Okay.
See what your option might be if this doesn't work.
Okay, thank
And
you.
if that doesn't work, we allow it on the Veterans Bridge.
To hang them over the side of the bridge,
It's
right?
not as big.
All right. Well, thanks
Great,
again
thank
for
you.
coming. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Brown.